And welcome along to a fresh hour of CBS Sports HQ delivered by Papa John's. A busy day in college football coming up today, and our SEC game on CBS takes us to Lexington, where number 1 ranked the Georgia Bulldogs look to remain unbeaten against Kentucky.
2 weeks ago, we were all wondering the same thing. Just how good are these Georgia Bulldogs? That question answered emphatically.
Hooker in traffic will be sacked.
First, there was a dominant performance against undefeated Tennessee. Then, a convincing win over Mississippi State. Now, the Bulldogs turn their attention to a different animal, the Wildcat, a menacing and elusive creature that's always ready to pounce.
When you ask our kids what the most physical game they played in, to a man, almost every one of them talks about how physical the Kentucky game was 2 years ago up there and then at our place last year.
As far as Kentucky, well, it's tasked with the borderline impossible, hunting the apex predator. Their foe currently sits atop the college football food chain, and they've been feasting on the Cats for the last 12 years. But Wildcats are animals known for patiently waiting until the perfect time to strike, and it seems they've waited long enough.
I believe in our players. I believe in our team. I still believe in it. And nobody's given up, and we do have a very good team.
A chance for Kentucky to prove it's not just a basketball school, to take down a number 1 team for the first time since 2007. And for quarterback Will Levis, an opportunity to bounce back. But he'll have to do so against the nation's best defense. A suffocating group that's allowed 300 yards passing only twice over the last 2 seasons. The potential number 1 pick opposite the number 1 team. The underdogs pitted against the top dogs. It begs the question, is it truly the size of the fight in the dog? Or may it just be the size of the dog in the fight? The answer, Saturday, live on CBS.
Well, here is a look at the notable afternoon games today in college football. It's number 1 Georgia taking on Kentucky on CBS. Elsewhere, number 2 Ohio State are huge favourites on the road, and number 9 Clemson welcome Miami to Death Valley. The Tigers are 19-point favourites there. Well, time now to get your winning ingredients delivered by Papa John's as we welcome in our guys, the Wizard of Odds, Kenny White, John Berger, and host of the Cover 3 podcast, Chip Patterson. Guys, it's good to see you. Let's start with that game right there on CBS. Georgia are the current favourites to win the national championship, so it's no surprise they're big favourites today. Chip, where is the money to be made in this game?
Lay them. Lay all of these points with the Georgia Bulldogs because this is a team that you mentioned is currently the favorite to win the national championship, but they have not quite hit their championship form, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. And Kirby Smart knows that while he could play a B-minus offensive game and be able to get in and out of Lexington with a win, if you're going to win a national championship, heck, maybe even if you're going to win an SEC championship, we need to continue to fine-tune this offense. And what that means is we go foot on the gas in the second half. We saw that against Mississippi State, and I think we see it here against Kentucky. Kentucky's going to try to play this game with a little bit of run, keep away, limit the number of possessions, keep it as close as possible. But over the course of 60 minutes, Georgia will be aggressive offensively all the way until the very end. They need to get that pass game up to par so they can compete against the likes of an Ohio State, so they can compete against the likes of those other teams that are going to be in the college football playoff, maybe even TCU. It can't just be Ladd McConkey, so they're going to continue to air it out in the second half. Georgia covers this big number at Kentucky.
I'm going to go with the total here, and you know, one of my rules, don't bet against top 5 teams because Chip's right. They do run scores up, but 2 things happened this past week that leads me to believe that we may not see the best of Georgia today. One is their name was written aside LSU in the SEC championship game. They know they're already playing there. The other is Kentucky lost to Vanderbilt, and when you're Georgia, you're going, wow. This was a physical game the last years, but man, they lost to Vanderbilt. They cannot be very good. Vanderbilt hadn't won a game in the SEC in ages. So they may take this game a little lightly, I think. I'm going to go under defense rules the day. Kentucky's 9-1 to the under this year. That's what they do. 21st in scoring defense. The Georgia Bulldogs, number 2 in scoring defense. Their defense, just amazing. How many? They got 18 guys drafted in the NFL last year, and they still just reload in their best defense in the college football. Once again, the scheme's there, the players are there. I'm under here. I think it's going to be a little closer than Chip thinks, but top 5 teams do keep the pedal to the metal sometimes, and they'll get a couple late touchdowns to cover spread. So you got to be careful there. I think it's going to be close very early though.
I'm going to go with Kenny. I like the bet. I'm going to put 2 bets down on this game. I'm going to take the under, but I'm also going to take Kentucky in the points here. I just think it's too many points, and I understand the logic, and you don't have to convince me how great Georgia is either offensively or defensively. I just think this spot, I'm not sure that Georgia's going to take this game all that serious. You look at Kentucky, you look at the game plan, you just want to pull Georgia into the ugliest game possible. So what does that mean? I mean, it means like you're snapping the ball offensively with like 2 seconds on the play clock the entire day. Run the football, Chris Rodriguez. Kenny mentioned it, which is why I took the under. Kentucky's not bad defensively. They're 21st in the nation in points per game in terms of allowing points per game. It's not a bad defense. They are going to play physical. Biggest thing for me, guys, is just the degradation offensively for Kentucky. When you look at Will Levis, the first 6 games versus the last 3, it's a completely different quarterback. His completion percentage has dropped 10%. His yards per game dropped 150. Yes, I said 150. So Kenny, let that marinate for a little bit. And then his pass yards per pass is 5 yards. So they've turned him into a little bit of a dink and dunk quarterback. So I think, Kentucky, they can line up. They'll play defense for a while, bleed the clock. Don't give Georgia a lot of offensive possessions. That's why I think Kentucky can cover this number. But I'm also going to take the under. I echo Kenny's comments. Defense rules the day.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.